The text message was still glowing on Thomas's phone when I walked into our bedroom that Tuesday night. He'd left it face up on the nightstand like he always did, completely trusting, completely careless. The preview was right there. Can't wait to feel you inside me again tomorrow. Delete this. C. My name is Freya, and I've been married to this man for 18 years. 18 years of managing his finances, organising his life, and apparently being too boring to keep his attention. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, phone in my hand, scrolling through months of messages between my husband and my 28-year-old cousin Cadence. The details don't matter. They never do in these situations. What mattered was the casual cruelty of it all, the way they laughed about my frumpy sweaters and dead bedroom energy, the way Cadence called me the obstacle, and Thomas agreed. "Freya, you coming to bed?" Thomas called from the bathroom, completely oblivious. I set his phone back down exactly where I'd found it. "Just checking the locks." The next evening was our monthly family dinner at my mother's house. I sat at the same spot I'd occupied for 42 years, watching Cadence charm everyone with stories about her new marketing job. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget, her dark hair perfectly styled, her laugh just a little too loud. "Cadence has such drive," my mother Catherine announced, cutting into her roast beef with surgical precision. "It's refreshing to see a young woman who knows what she wants." "Unlike some people," my sister Evelyn muttered, not quite under her breath. I looked up from my plate. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, Freya, just that some of us could stand to put in a little more effort." Evelyn gestured vaguely at my appearance. I was wearing jeans and a sweater, clean jeans and a nice sweater, but apparently that wasn't enough. "Effort into what exactly?" "Your marriage, for starters," Catherine said. "Tomas is a successful man. He needs a partner who pushes him, challenges him, not someone who's content to just exist." Cadence smiled sweetly across the table. "Oh, Aunt Catherine, I'm sure Freya does her best." The condescension in her voice made my teeth ache. This girl, this child who'd been borrowing money from me since she was 16, who'd crashed on our couch during her finding myself phase last year, was sitting there pitying me. "I manage all of Thomas's investments," I said quietly. "I handle the taxes, the insurance, the mortgage payments. I've increased our portfolio by 30% in the last 5 years." "That's nice, dear," Catherine waved her hand dismissively, "but a man needs more than a bookkeeper." Uncle Vicente, Cadence's father, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Maybe we should talk about something else." "No, it's fine," I said. "I'm curious what everyone thinks I should be doing differently." "Well," Evelyn leaned forward, warming to the topic, "when's the last time you went to the gym or got your hair done professionally? Sarah from my yoga class just got the most amazing highlights." "You used to be so pretty," Catherine added. "Remember your wedding photos? You had such potential." Cadence reached across the table and patted my hand. "It's never too late to reinvent yourself, cousin. I could give you some tips if you want." I looked around the table at these people, my family, discussing my failures like I wasn't sitting right there. Like I was a project that needed fixing instead of a person who'd been quietly holding everything together for years. "You're right," I said finally. "I should probably work on myself." The conversation moved on to other topics. Cadence's promotion prospects, Evelyn's new boyfriend, Catherine's bridge club drama. I sat there nodding and smiling, playing the part of the chastened wife who'd finally seen the light. When I got home that night, Thomas was waiting in the living room with a bottle of wine and a serious expression. "We need to talk," he said. I sat down across from him, hands folded in my lap. "Okay, I want a divorce, Freya. I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. We've grown apart, and I think we both deserve to be happy." "Is there someone else?" He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Cadence and I, we've developed feelings for each other. She's moving in this weekend. I stared at him for a long moment. This man I'd built a life with, who couldn't balance a checkbook or remember to pay a bill on time, who'd never once asked how I'd managed to turn his teacher's salary into a comfortable lifestyle. "Okay," I said. "Okay?" I smiled, really smiled for the first time in months. "Yes, Thomas, I think a divorce is exactly what we both need." He looked surprised, maybe even a little disappointed that I wasn't fighting for him. But why would I fight for someone who'd already decided I wasn't worth keeping? As he went upstairs to pack, I sat alone in our living room, surrounded by the life I'd built, and started planning how to become invisible in ways they'd never see coming. The studio apartment I rented was exactly 480 square feet of beige carpet and fluorescent lighting, the kind of place college students live in, not 42-year-old women who used to have walk-in closets bigger than the entire kitchen. "Jesus, Freya," Ruby said, setting down a box of my books, "this place is depressing as hell." "It's temporary." I opened another box, pulling out the few personal items I'd managed to salvage. Most of my stuff was still in the house. Their house now. Ruby flopped down on my second-hand couch. "Have you talked to your family since the dinner from hell?" "Catherine called yesterday, asked if I was taking care of myself, and suggested I join a gym. Evelyn texted me a link to some self-help book about reinventing yourself after 40. Supportive as always. Oh, and Cadence sent me a housewarming invitation for my own house." Ruby's jaw dropped. "She didn't." I showed her the Instagram post on my phone, Cadence and Thomas grinning in front of their newly painted front door. The caption read, "New beginnings in our forever home. Sometimes the universe knows exactly what you need. Blessed, March a new chapter, Diamtig home is where the heart sees." "I'm going to throw up," Ruby muttered. "The comments are even better. Look at this one from Catherine. So happy to see Thomas with someone who appreciates him. And here's Evelyn. You two are perfect together. Your family is trash, Freya. I've been telling you this for years." I set the phone down and started unpacking my financial documents. They think I'm pathetic, the sad dumped wife living in a shoebox apartment. Are you going to let them keep thinking that? I looked up at her. Ruby had been my best friend since college, the only person who'd never once suggested I needed to change myself to keep a man happy. "What do you think?" She grinned. "I think Thomas and your precious cousin have no idea what they've unleashed." The next morning, I had coffee with my lawyer, David Martinez. He'd handled our estate planning for years, which meant he knew exactly how our finances were structured. "The house is in both names," he said, reviewing the documents. "But the investment accounts, the rental properties, the business holdings, most of those are in your name or in trusts you control. Thomas always said he didn't want to deal with the paperwork. Lucky for you, unlucky for him. He's going to have a very rude awakening when he tries to access these accounts." I sipped my coffee. How rude. Well, let's put it this way. That house he's living in, the mortgage payments come out of an account he can't touch. The credit cards he's been using for renovations, also tied to your accounts. He probably thinks he has access to about 2 million in assets. And he actually has access to maybe 50,000 in his personal checking account if he's lucky. I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Genuine excitement. "What about the rental properties?" "All yours. The LLC is in your name, managed through your business account. He gets the rental income because you've been depositing it into the joint account. But if you stop doing that, the income disappears." Exactly, and since he's never actually managed any of these properties, he probably doesn't even know which tenants pay what or when. David leaned back in his chair. "Freya, I have to ask, are you sure about this? Divorce can get ugly, but financial warfare can get nuclear." "He's already moved my cousin into our bed, David. How much uglier can it get? That afternoon, Catherine called while I was setting up my home office in the corner of my studio apartment. "Freya, honey, I'm worried about you." "I'm fine, Mom." "This apartment, it's not suitable for a woman your age. People are talking." "What people?" "Sandra Jenkins saw you at the grocery store yesterday. She said you looked defeated." I almost laughed. Sandra Jenkins, the neighbourhood gossip queen, had probably rushed straight to Catherine with a full report on my appearance. "I was buying groceries, Mum, not walking a red carpet." "That's exactly what I mean. You've given up. Thomas is out there living his best life with Cadence, and you're hiding in some sad little apartment feeling sorry for yourself." "Maybe I should join a gym," I said. "Get some highlights, really show him what he's missing." "Now you're talking sense. I know a wonderful trainer, and my hairdresser could work miracles with your hair." "I'll think about it." "Don't think too long, dear. Every day you waste is another day Thomas realizes he made the right choice." After she hung up, I stared at my laptop screen. Bank statements, investment portfolios, property deeds, all the boring paperwork that had made our comfortable life possible. The paperwork Thomas had never wanted to understand. Ruby was right. They had no idea what they'd unleashed. I opened a new browser window and started researching shell corporations. If they wanted me to disappear, I'd give them exactly what they asked for. But I'd be disappearing with everything that mattered. My phone buzzed with another Instagram notification. Cadence had posted a photo of herself in our kitchen, my kitchen, wearing an apron that said "Queen of the Castle." I screenshot the image and saved it to a folder I labelled Evidence. Then I got back to work. Setting up Phantom Holdings LLC took exactly 3 days and cost me $800. The beauty of Delaware corporate law is that nobody asks questions as long as you file the right paperwork and pay the fees. "You're really doing this," Ruby said, watching me transfer the first batch of assets from my laptop. We were sitting in a coffee shop downtown, far from anywhere my family might see us. "The rental properties go first," I said, clicking through the transfer documents. "Then the investment accounts. By next week, Phantom Holdings will own everything that actually generates income. And Thomas will have no idea. He's never looked at a bank statement in his life. As long as money keeps appearing in the joint account, he won't question where it comes from." My phone rang. Thomas. "Hey," he said, sounding unusually cheerful. "Quick question about the kitchen renovation. The contractor needs another $15,000 for the marble countertops. Can you approve the transfer from the investment account?" "Of course," I said sweetly. "Which account specifically?" "You know, the big one. The Vanguard thing." I pulled up my laptop screen. The Vanguard account now belonged to Phantom Holdings, but the transfer wouldn't show up in his systems for another 24 hours. "I'll take care of it." "Thanks, Freya. You're being really cool about all this." "Just want everyone to be happy." After he hung up, Ruby stared at me. "You just authorized him to spend $15,000 he doesn't have." "Technically, I authorized the contractor to do the work. Whether Thomas can actually pay for it is his problem." I opened my banking app and transferred exactly $15,000 from Phantom Holdings to the joint account. The money would be there when the contractor ran the charge, but it would also create a paper trail showing that the funds came from my new company, not from any account Thomas had access to. "You're diabolical," Ruby said. "I'm thorough." That evening, Evelyn called while I was eating take-out Chinese food on my tiny balcony. "Freya, I just saw the most amazing photos from Cadence's Instagram. The kitchen renovation looks incredible." "I'm sure it does." "She has such good taste. Very modern, very sophisticated. Not like that country farmhouse style you had before." I looked at my phone. Cadence had posted a video tour of the kitchen, complete with commentary about her vision for the space. She was wearing a designer dress and holding a glass of wine that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. "The marble countertops are gorgeous," Evelyn continued. "Thomas must be so happy to finally have a partner who cares about these things." "Mm-hmm. Are you even listening to me?" "Sorry, just distracted by work." "Work? Freya, you don't have a job." "I'm consulting now, financial planning for small businesses." It wasn't technically a lie. Phantom Holdings was a small business, and I was definitely planning its finances. "Well, that's nice. Anyway, Catherine wants to know if you're coming to Vicente's birthday party next weekend. It's at the country club." "Will Thomas and Cadence be there?" "Of course they will. They're family." "And I'm not," Evelyn sighed. "Don't be dramatic. You're still family, but you can't expect everyone to pretend this isn't awkward. Maybe it would be better if you skipped this one." "Maybe it would." After she hung up, I sat on my balcony looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Thomas and Cadence were probably planning their next renovation project, completely unaware that their access to funding was about to disappear. My laptop chimed with an email notification. The final transfer had gone through. Phantom Holdings now controlled $1.8 million in assets, 3 rental properties, and a diversified investment portfolio that generated about $12,000 a month in passive income. Thomas's personal checking account contained exactly $47,000. I opened a bottle of wine, a $20 bottle, not the expensive stuff Cadence was drinking in her Instagram stories, and raised a toast to my empty apartment. "To being underestimated," I said out loud. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I saw a photo of Thomas and Cadence in bed, her head on his chest, both of them smiling at the camera. The message read, "Thanks for the house. We're so happy here. Hope you're doing okay in your little apartment." I stared at the photo for a long moment, then forwarded it to Ruby with a message. Evidence folder just got more interesting. She texted back immediately, "That girl has no idea what's coming." I poured myself another glass of wine and opened my laptop. Time to start phase 2. The loan applications were surprisingly easy to find online. Home equity lines of credit, personal loans, business financing, all of it available to someone with Thomas's credit score and apparent assets. I started filling out applications in his name, using information I'd memorized after 18 years of managing his finances. The beauty of being married to someone for so long is that you know their social security number, their mother's maiden name, their first pet's name. All the security questions that banks think keep accounts safe. By midnight, I'd submitted applications for over $300,000 in various loans, all tied to assets that Thomas thought he owned but couldn't actually access. The approvals started coming in within hours. The invitation arrived on cream-coloured cardstock with gold-embossed lettering. "Thomas and Cadence request the pleasure of your company for a housewarming celebration." My own address was printed at the bottom. I was reading it when Ruby knocked on my door, carrying coffee and pastries from the bakery down the street. "Please tell me that's not what I think it is," she said, seeing the invitation in my hands. "They're throwing a party at my house this Saturday." The audacity is actually impressive. Ruby set down the coffee and grabbed the invitation. "Look at this. They even put their names together like they're some kind of power couple. Thomas and Cadence makes me want to vomit." My phone rang. Catherine. "Freya, dear, I assume you got the invitation?" I did. "Now, I know this might be difficult for you, but I think it would be best if you didn't attend. It's important for Thomas and Cadence to establish themselves as a couple without any awkwardness." "You're uninviting me from a party at my own house?" "It's not your house anymore, Freya, and frankly, your presence would just make everyone uncomfortable. Cadence has worked so hard to make the place beautiful again." Ruby was making throat-slitting gestures from across the room. "Of course," I said. I wouldn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. I'm glad you understand. Maybe you could use the time to work on yourself. Join that gym we talked about. After she hung up, Ruby flopped down on my couch. I can't believe she just uninvited you from your own housewarming party. Former house, I corrected. And it's fine. I'll be busy anyway. Doing what? I opened my laptop and showed her the loan approval emails, watching the money disappear. That Saturday evening, I sat in my car across the street from the house I'd lived in for 15 years. The windows glowed with warm light, and I could see people moving around inside. Expensive cars lined the driveway and street. My phone buzzed with a text from Cadence. Wish you could be here. Everyone's having such a wonderful time. The house has never looked better. She'd attached a photo of herself and Thomas cutting a ribbon across the front door, surrounded by smiling family members. Catherine was beaming in the background. Evelyn was raising a champagne glass. Even Uncle Vicente looked happy. I texted back, "Looks amazing. So happy for you both." Then I opened my banking app and initiated the next phase. The rental property payments were due on Monday. Instead of depositing them into the joint account like I had for the past 8 years, I redirected them to Phantom Holdings. $12,000 that Thomas was expecting simply wouldn't appear. My phone rang. "Ruby, are you stalking your own house right now?" "I'm conducting surveillance." "Get out of there before someone sees you. Come over. I made margaritas." I was about to leave when I saw Thomas step onto the front porch with his phone pressed to his ear. Even from across the street, I could see he looked stressed. My phone buzzed with a call from him. "Freya, hey. Quick question about the rental payments. They usually hit the account on the 1st, but I'm not seeing them." "Oh, that's weird. Let me check." I pretended to look something up on my laptop. It looks like there might be an issue with the automatic transfer. I'll call the property management company on Monday." "Okay, but we have some big expenses coming up. The pool renovation starts next week." "Pool renovation?" "Cadence found this amazing designer. We're putting in an infinity edge pool and a hot tub. It's going to be incredible." Through my car window, I could see Cadence join him on the porch. She wrapped her arms around his waist and whispered something in his ear that made him smile. "How much is that going to cost?" I asked. $80,000, but it's an investment. It'll add value to the house." "Absolutely. I'll make sure the rental money gets sorted out." "Thanks, Freya. You're the best." After he hung up, I watched him rejoin the party. Through the living room window, I could see him talking animatedly to a group of people, probably describing his pool renovation plans. I started my car and drove to Ruby's apartment. "How was the surveillance mission?" she asked, handing me a margarita. "Educational. They're spending $80,000 on a pool." "With what money?" "That's the beautiful part. They think they have money. The loan approvals keep coming in. The credit lines are active. Everything looks perfect on paper." Ruby pulled up Cadence's Instagram on her phone. "Look at this. She posted like 20 photos from tonight." I scrolled through the images. My family laughing and drinking in my former living room. Cadence giving a tour of the renovated kitchen. Thomas making a speech about new beginnings and fresh starts. The final photo was of Cadence and Thomas kissing in front of the fireplace I'd picked out 12 years ago. The caption read, "Home is wherever you are, baby. Thank you for choosing me. Blessed last new beginnings. Setcha forever. Home, Shafrid, love wins." "The hashtags alone are grounds for murder," Ruby muttered. My phone chimed with a notification. One of the loan applications had been approved. $50,000, available immediately. I showed Ruby the screen. "Want to bet they'll have that money spent by the end of the week?" "On what?" "Pool renovation, new furniture, maybe a vacation to celebrate their new life together." Ruby raised her margarita. "To watching people hang themselves with their own rope." "To being underestimated," I replied. We clinked glasses, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Pure, undiluted satisfaction. Monday morning, I got a call from the pool contractor. Mrs. Freya, I'm calling about the deposit for the renovation project. The payment didn't go through. Oh no, what seems to be the problem? The account shows insufficient funds. Is there another card we can try? I pretended to be confused. That's so strange. Let me call Thomas and see what's going on. But I didn't call Thomas. Instead, I transferred exactly $80,000 from Phantom Holdings to the joint account, then immediately transferred it back out again. The contractor would see the money appear and disappear within minutes, and Thomas would have no idea why. Thomas called me at 7 in the morning on a Tuesday, which should have been my first clue that something was wrong. He never called anyone before 10. Freya, I need your help. There's some kind of mix-up with the accounts. I was making coffee in my tiny kitchen, still in my pyjamas. What kind of mix-up? The mortgage payment bounced, and the pool contractor says our deposit disappeared from his account after it was already processed. None of this makes sense. That's weird. Have you called the bank? I've been on the phone with them for 2 hours. They keep saying the funds aren't available, but I'm looking at the account balance online, and it shows we have plenty of money. I pulled up my laptop and logged into the joint account. The balance showed $53,000, which looks substantial until you realize that the mortgage payment alone was $4,800 a month. Maybe it's a technical glitch, I said. These things happen. Can you call them? You're better with this financial stuff. Of course, I'll see what I can find out. After he hung up, I sat on my couch sipping coffee and watching the numbers on my screen. The joint account was running on fumes, but Thomas couldn't see that because he'd never learned to read a bank statement properly. He saw the balance and assumed everything was fine. My phone rang again. This time it was Catherine. Freya, I just got off the phone with Thomas. He says there are problems with the mortgage. Just a banking error, Mum. I'm sure it'll get sorted out. Well, it better. The last thing this family needs is financial drama. People are already talking about the divorce. What people? Sandra Jenkins, for one. She heard about the mortgage issue from her nephew who works at the bank. She's telling everyone that Thomas might lose the house. I almost laughed. Sandra Jenkins had better intelligence networks than the CIA. I'm sure Sandra has better things to worry about. This isn't funny, Freya. If Tomas loses that house, it reflects poorly on all of us. You need to fix this. I need to fix it? You managed the finances during the marriage. You understand how everything works. Cadence is trying her best, but she's not equipped to handle these kinds of problems. Maybe Thomas should have thought about that before he moved her in. Catherine's voice went cold. Don't be petty. This is bigger than your hurt feelings. That house has been in our family for 15 years. It was never in our family, Mum. It was in my name. Same thing. No, it really isn't. After she hung up, I got dressed and drove to the bank. I had a meeting scheduled with my financial advisor, but first I wanted to see how the other side was handling their crisis. I was sitting in the lobby when Cadence walked in, looking frazzled and overdressed for a Tuesday morning bank visit. She was wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, but her hair was messy and she kept checking her phone. She didn't see me sitting in the corner with my laptop. I need to speak with someone about our accounts, she told the teller. There seems to be some kind of error. I'll need to see some identification and account information. Cadence fumbled through her purse. I don't have the account numbers with me, but my boyfriend's name is on everything, Thomas. I'm sorry, but I can only discuss account details with the account holder or someone who's been specifically authorized. But I live with him. We're practically married. I understand, but bank policy requires proper authorization. I watched Cadence's face turn red. She wasn't used to being told no, especially not by people she considered beneath her. This is ridiculous. I'm trying to solve a problem that affects both of us. If you'd like to add your name to the accounts, the primary account holder would need to come in and sign the appropriate paperwork." Cadence stormed out, her heels clicking angrily on the marble floor. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. "Freya, it's Cadence. I need a favour." "What's up?" "I'm trying to help Thomas with this banking situation, but they won't talk to me because I'm not on the accounts. Could you maybe add me as an authorised user, just temporarily, until we get this sorted out?" "I don't think I can do that. The accounts are frozen pending the divorce settlement." It was a complete lie, but she didn't know that. "What does that mean?" "It means nobody can make changes to the account structure until the lawyers finish dividing everything up. It's standard procedure." "How long does that take?" "Could be months. These things are complicated when there are significant assets involved." I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end of the line. "Freya, I need you to be honest with me. Is Thomas going to be okay financially?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, he keeps talking about all these investments and rental properties, but I can't find any evidence of them. And now the mortgage is bouncing and contractors are calling about unpaid bills." "Have you asked him about it?" "He just says you handle all the financial stuff and he doesn't understand the details, but you're not handling it anymore, so now it's his responsibility. But he doesn't know how. Then maybe he should learn." After she hung up, I sat in my car in the bank parking lot and called Ruby. "Cadence just asked me to add her to Tomas's accounts." "Please tell me you said no." "I told her the accounts were frozen for the divorce." "Are they?" "Not even a little bit. But she doesn't know that." Ruby laughed. "How long before they figure out what's really happening?" "At the rate they're spending money, maybe 2 weeks. And then they'll come begging for help. And you'll say—" I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. For the first time in months, I looked like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. "I'll say I told them I wasn't equipped to handle these kinds of problems." The foreclosure notice arrived on a Thursday. I know because Thomas called me at 6:47 a.m., screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "They're taking the house, Freya! The bank is taking the fucking house!" "Slow down. What happened?" "I got a letter yesterday. Foreclosure proceedings. They say we're 3 months behind on the mortgage, but that's impossible. You've been making those payments for years." I was sitting at my kitchen table, eating cereal and watching the sunrise through my tiny window. "Have you checked the account lately?" "What do you mean, check the account? The money's supposed to be there automatically." "Thomas, I haven't had access to make mortgage payments since we separated. You'll need to set up your own automatic transfers." "What? But you never told me that." "I assumed you'd figure it out. It's your house now." The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. "Freya, I need your help. I don't know how to do any of this stuff." "Maybe Cadence can help you." "She doesn't know either. She keeps saying we should call you." "I'm not your wife anymore, Thomas. This isn't my problem. Please, I'm begging you. Just this once, help me figure out what's going on." I set down my spoon. "Fine, I'll take a look, but I can't promise anything." 2 hours later, I was sitting in a coffee shop with my laptop when Catherine called. "Freya, what is this nonsense about foreclosure? Thomas is beside himself." "It's not nonsense, Mom. He hasn't been making the mortgage payments." "Well, why not? You always handled that." "Because I don't live there anymore. I don't have access to his accounts." "Don't be ridiculous. Of course you have access. You're still married." "We're separated. The divorce papers were filed months ago." Catherine's voice turned sharp. "Freya, I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to stop it right now. That house is important to this family. It's important to Thomas and Cadence. They're the ones living there. You're being vindictive. This isn't like you. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think." She hung up on me. 20 minutes later, Evelyn called. "Freya, Mom told me about the house situation. You have to help them." "I have to?" "Yes, Cadence is crying, Thomas is having panic attacks, and Mom is threatening to disown you if you don't fix this." "Disown me for what? Not paying my ex-husband's bills." "For being cruel, for letting your anger destroy the family." I closed my laptop. "Evelyn, let me ask you something. When Thomas moved Cadence into my house, did you think that was cruel?" "That's different." "How?" Because marriage is complicated. Sometimes people grow apart." "And when Mom uninvited me from the housewarming party at my own house, was that cruel?" "You're twisting things around." "When Cadence sent me photos of her and Thomas in bed together, was that cruel?" Evelyn went quiet. "I'm not being vindictive," I continued. "I'm just not cleaning up their mess anymore." That afternoon, Uncle Vicente called. He was the only family member who'd stayed neutral during the whole mess, which made his call more concerning than the others. "Freya, honey, I think we need to talk." "About what?" "About what's really going on here. Thomas came to see me this morning. He's in bad shape." "I'm sorry to hear that. He says the rental properties aren't generating income anymore. The investment accounts are showing zero balances. He can't access any of the money he thought he had." I was quiet. "Freya, where did the money go?" "What money?" "Don't play games with me. I've known you since you were 5 years old. You're the smartest person in this family when it comes to finances. If money is disappearing, you know where it went." "Maybe Thomas should have paid more attention to his finances." "Or maybe his ex-wife decided to teach him a lesson." I felt my chest tighten. Vicente had always been the reasonable one, the peacemaker. If he was turning against me too. "Uncle Vicente, I haven't done anything illegal." "I didn't say you had, but legal and right aren't always the same thing." "So when Thomas cheated on me with my cousin, that was right?" "No, it wasn't, but destroying his life won't fix yours." After he hung up, I sat in my apartment staring at my laptop screen. The Phantom Holdings account showed $1.9 million. The rental properties were generating $12,000 a month. The investment portfolio was up 8% since I'd taken control. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We know what you did. Fix this or we'll make you fix it." I screenshot the message and forwarded it to Ruby. She called immediately. Was that a threat? "Sounds like it." "From who?" "Could be anyone at this point. The whole family is turning against me." "Good. Let them show their true colours." "Vicente thinks I'm wrong." "Vicente is trying to keep the peace, but there's no peace to keep, Freya. They chose sides the minute Thomas moved Cadence into your house." That evening, I drove past the house one more time. There was a foreclosure notice taped to the front door, and I could see Cadence through the living room window, pacing back and forth with her phone pressed to her ear. As I watched, a moving truck pulled up to the curb. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognise. "Is this Freya?" "Yes." "Dear, this is Premier Asset Management. We understand you might be interested in purchasing a property that's going into foreclosure. We have an excellent opportunity that just became available." I smiled. "Tell me more." The eviction happened on a Tuesday morning. I watched from my car as the sheriff's deputies supervised the removal of furniture from what used to be my house. Cadence stood on the front lawn in designer pajamas, screaming at anyone who would listen. "This is illegal! We have rights! You can't just throw us out!" One of the deputies, a middle-aged woman with infinite patience, handed her a clipboard. "Ma'am, you need to sign here acknowledging that you've received your belongings." "I'm not signing anything. Where's my lawyer?" Thomas emerged from the house carrying a box of his clothes. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past month. His hair was greasy, his shirt wrinkled, and he had the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't slept in weeks. Cadence, just sign the paper. We need to get out of here. No, this is our house. Tell them it's our house. It's not our house anymore. My phone rang. Catherine. Freya, you need to get down here right now. Where's here? The house? They're throwing Thomas and Cadence out on the street like common criminals. I'm sure they'll figure something out. Don't you dare take that tone with me. This is your fault, and you're going to fix it. How is this my fault? You know exactly how. Now get down here and tell these people there's been a mistake. There hasn't been a mistake, Mum. The house was foreclosed on because nobody paid the mortgage. Because you stopped paying it. Because it's not my responsibility anymore. Catherine's voice turned venomous. You are a selfish, vindictive woman, and I'm ashamed to call you my daughter. She hung up. I sat in my car for another 20 minutes, watching the movers load everything into a truck. Cadence had stopped screaming and was now crying into her phone. Thomas was sitting on the front steps with his head in his hands. My phone buzzed with a text from Ruby. Please tell me you're not there watching this. I texted back, OK, I won't tell you that. Freya, get out of there. This is getting weird. She was right. I started my car and drove away, but I couldn't shake the image of Thomas sitting on those steps. For a moment, he'd looked like the man I'd married 20 years ago, vulnerable and lost, and completely out of his depth. That afternoon, I met with the real estate agent at a coffee shop downtown. The property sold at auction yesterday, she said, sliding a folder across the table. Cash sale, no contingencies. The new owner wants to close as soon as possible. How much did it go for? $420,000, about 60% of market value, which is typical for foreclosure auctions. I opened the folder and pretended to review the paperwork. And the new owner is? Phantom Holdings, LLC. They're apparently an investment company that specializes in distressed properties. Interesting name. The closing is scheduled for Friday. Will you be able to attend as the listing agent? Absolutely. That evening, Evelyn called while I was making dinner in my tiny kitchen. Freya, Thomas and Cadence are staying at Mum's house. They lost everything. I heard. That's all you have to say? They're homeless. They're not homeless. They're staying with Catherine. Temporarily. They can't live there forever. Why not? It's a big house. Because it's humiliating. Cadence is 28 years old and she's sleeping in Mum's guest room like a teenager. Maybe she should get a job. She has a job. A real job. One that pays enough to cover rent. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. Freya, what happened to you? You used to be kind. I used to be a lot of things. Mum thinks you're having some kind of breakdown. She wants to stage an intervention. I almost laughed. An intervention for what? For your behaviour, for the way you're treating family. The way I'm treating family? Evelyn, do you remember what happened at the housewarming party? That's different. How? Because you and Thomas were already over. Everyone could see it. Everyone except me, apparently. You weren't happy, Freya. You hadn't been happy for years. So that made it okay for him to cheat on me with my cousin? No, but... And it made it okay for all of you to choose sides against me? We didn't choose sides. You uninvited me from a party at my own house. That was Mum's decision. And you went along with it. Evelyn sighed. What do you want from us, Freya? You want us to hate Thomas? You want us to shun Cadence? I want you to acknowledge that what they did was wrong. Okay, fine, it was wrong. Are you happy now? Not really. After she hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my tiny balcony. The city lights stretched out below me, and for the first time in months, I felt completely alone. My phone buzzed with a text from Cadence. I know you're behind this. I don't know how, but I know it's you. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back. I don't know what you're talking about. You destroyed our life. You destroyed your own life. I just stopped cleaning up the mess. We're going to prove what you did. Good luck with that. I blocked her number and finished my wine. The next morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Miss Freya, this is Jennifer from Blackstone Investment Group. We have a proposition that might interest you. What kind of proposition? We're looking for experienced financial consultants to join our team. Your reputation for asset management has come to our attention. I sat up straighter. My reputation. The Phantom Holdings portfolio has been quite impressive. We'd like to discuss a potential partnership. I'd be very interested in that conversation. Excellent. Are you available for lunch today? I looked around my tiny apartment, then at the foreclosure paperwork on my kitchen table. Yes, I said, I'm available. The penthouse had floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the entire city. I was standing at one of them, coffee in hand, when Ruby knocked on the door. Holy shit, Freya, she said, walking into the living room. This place is incredible. The Blackstone job came with some nice perks. Some nice perks? This is like something out of a magazine. She set down a bottle of champagne on my granite kitchen island. I brought celebration supplies. What are we celebrating? Your new life. Your success. The fact that you're no longer living in that depressing shoebox apartment. I poured the champagne into 2 glasses and handed her one. To new beginnings. To revenge served ice cold. We clinked glasses and I walked back to the window. From up here, the city looked manageable, organised, like everything had its proper place. Have you heard from any of them lately? Ruby asked. Evelyn texted last week. She wanted to know if I'd consider helping Thomas with his bankruptcy filing. Please tell me you said no. I told her to give him the number for legal aid. Ruby laughed. And Catherine? Radio silence since the eviction. I think she's finally figured out that guilt trips don't work on me anymore. What about Cadence? I pulled out my phone and showed her the latest Instagram post. Cadence was working at a retail store in the mall, wearing a name tag and a forced smile. The caption read, New chapter, learning so much about customer service and personal growth. Abu blessed, at new beginnings was work hard. She's working at the Gap, Ruby said. Assistant manager, according to her LinkedIn. How the mighty have fallen. My phone rang. Thomas. I looked at Ruby, who nodded encouragingly. Hello, Thomas. Freya, I need to talk to you. About what? About everything, about what I did, about what happened to us. I sat down on my leather couch. Okay. I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry for cheating on you. I'm sorry for how I treated you, and I'm sorry for being such an idiot about money. Okay? That's it, just okay. What do you want me to say, Thomas? I don't know. Maybe that you forgive me. Maybe that we can figure out how to be friends. I looked out at the city lights. Do you know what the hardest part was? The cheating. No, the cheating hurt, but it wasn't the hardest part. Then what? The way everyone acted like I deserved it, like I was so boring and pathetic that of course you'd want someone else. Thomas was quiet. My own mother uninvited me from a party at my own house. My sister told me I needed to work on myself. My cousin sent me photos of you two in bed together. Freya, and through all of that, not one person asked if I was okay. Not one person thought maybe I didn't deserve to be humiliated. You're right. We were all horrible to you. Yes, you were. So what happens now? I stood up and walked back to the window. Now you live with the consequences of your choices. And you, what do you do? I live with mine. After I hung up, Ruby refilled our champagne glasses. How do you feel? She asked. Tired? But satisfied? I thought about it. Yeah, satisfied. Do you regret any of it? Which part? The revenge, the financial warfare, watching them lose everything. I sipped my champagne. Do you know what I found when I went to clean out my desk at the old house? What? A photo of me from our anniversary dinner last year. Thomas had written on the back, "My boring wife." He'd hidden it in a drawer like it was some kind of joke. Ruby's face darkened. He didn't. He did. So no, I don't regret anything. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Vicente. I wanted you to know that Catherine is in the hospital. Heart attack. She's asking for you." I showed the message to Ruby. "Are you going to go?" she asked. "I don't know." "She's still your mother." "She's also the woman who chose my cheating husband over her own daughter." Ruby set down her glass. "Freya, I supported everything you did. Every move, every calculation, every moment of beautiful revenge. But this is different." "How?" "Because this isn't about money or houses or teaching people lessons. This is about whether you can live with yourself if she dies and you weren't there." I stared at the text message for a long time. "Will you drive me to the hospital?" I asked. "Of course." An hour later, I was standing outside Catherine's hospital room. Through the window, I could see her lying in bed, looking smaller and frailer than I'd ever seen her. Evelyn was sitting beside her, holding her hand. I knocked on the door and walked in. "Freya," Evelyn said, standing up, "I'm so glad you came." Catherine opened her eyes and looked at me. "You came." "I came." I thought you might not." I pulled up a chair and sat down. "I'm here, Mom." She reached for my hand with shaking fingers. "I'm sorry. For everything. I was wrong." "I know." "Can you forgive me?" I looked at this woman who'd raised me, criticised me, abandoned me, and was now asking for forgiveness from a hospital bed. "I'm working on it," I said. And for the first time in months, that felt like enough. Catherine squeezed my hand. "That's all I can ask for." Outside in the hallway, Evelyn hugged me. "Thank you for coming. She's still my mother. Are you okay? With everything that happened?" I looked through the window at Catherine sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," I said, "and I meant it."